The Truman Show on Planet Earth, Part 2. So we are all the collective of mankind is being Trumanized. Trumanized. You guys remember that, right? While a nonstop continuous loop of Hotel California is playing. We are all just prisoners here of our own device. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. Now, if you look into that song, it's telling you about a satanic initiation at a all-black house in San Francisco where the Church of Satan was born on a street. Here's the street's name. I can't pronounce it. Starts with a W right there. In 1966. Okay. In case you want to look into it. That's why I showed that to you. Anyway, the Church of Satan was born in 1966. Founder and author of the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey. The English, it's a Latin name, but the English translation is Year One Satan. It's the same year that the coronavirus was first let loose and sent as a transatlantic experiment on humans. There are, man, I'm losing my voice. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. As in the so-called future second coming of Jesus. Being in that state of mind is the wrong approach to being a warrior for Jesus. For in Satan's little season, we are in spiritual war every minute of every day. Spiritual warriors are aware constantly of the truth and spreading the truth instead of being hell-bent on their platforms for making money or getting funding so they can go out and bullhorn the clowns that call themselves prophets. Truth has a way of shaking our core beliefs, our very cornerstone of what we stand for, who we are at the core. So if your belief systems, if your BS is more important than truth, then you're not walking according to the teachings of Jesus, which came here to give us. You're not being the warrior for the love of your fellow humans, while Satan is destroying mankind from the inside out, rotting. We are in his season. He is on his final countdown. And here, let's begin to just bullet point it as much as I can. What is his final agenda? It will roll out. It's all there. It's undeniable unless you do not want to see it. You can run from it. You can hide from it, but it's going to happen, like it or not. Look, I know I was at the bride's supper with Jesus. I know I lived in his millennial kingdom for 1,000 years. I know what I am to do here. Now, so before we go with the final rollout, let's recap what has been our history since the end of the millennial kingdom 1,000-year reign. The millennial reign most likely happened somewhere between the 1600 and the end of the 1700s or mid 1700s. And the buildings that were built while the millennial kingdom was here, that 1,000-year reign, they were left behind. Once the saints left, as prophesied by Isaiah 26:20. Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers. Shut thy doors about thee, hide thyself, as it were for a little moment, until the indignation be overpast. We are in the time of Revelation 20, verse 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. This, in all of my study, happened in the roughly, just go with mid-1700s. Why do I say that? If you read history of the mud floods, it was a catastrophe. In the 1700s, if you do your due diligence on all of the century and the outcome of how much damage and the burial over huge cities all over the world. Only a few buildings, the largest, survived, which were used for world fairs. While Satan was in the pit, before his release, his seed line had a pact with their father, and they started to redact our history and make themselves rich, and they are known as epic, elite powers in control. So epic began to form and control and enslave humanity. And Satan has the playbook. He formed while he was in the pit, observing our psyche and how to control and delude us to this outcome we have today, woke and broke. Epic started to reclaim these leftover buildings from the millennial reign and rebranding them as their founders, aka Freemasonry. They repurposed the structures all over the world as churches, also as insane asylums, also as prisons, for reasons of teaching how to make a person go insane if they were left over from the millennial time period. In other words, they knew the truth of this happening. They were confined in asylums if they resisted the new narrative and spoke the truth about Jesus's reign on earth. How about the children? There were children born during the millennial reign, and they were left over because the saints left that had been born into this timeline, the children in this timeline. They were put on trains and they were shipped around the country and around the world. They were called orphanage trains. They were to be re-schooled, re-indoctrinated into Satan's narrative. The buildings, as in the world fairs, were retrofitted to teach people a new narrative, a new history. By 1800, the Luciferian Foundation had become our new cornerstone, and his playbook then rolls out with secret societies all over the world. The first being Freemasonry. They started to write now what we call our history books. Not the truth, but a narrative that 99.9% of the people today are in lockstep with. Then they started the universities. They started the seminaries with a new narrative. They create their religion in early 1800 called dispensationalism. And they began crafting a secular, godless timeline to replace our divine history. Satan needed God to not exist. So he inspired Darwin to write down the theory of evolution, to replace biblical creation that God made us in his image, and to create an academia body to overtake science as God and throw out the Bible, as in, let's now talk about the Big Bang Theory. Okay, so as well as the early tech of the day, like we did once have electric cars way back then, Tesla came along with free energy. Epic killed those inventors and they suppressed all of that technology so that we would need to rape the earth and be dependent on oil. Back to the world fairs. It's not a deep dive to understand the purpose of those buildings, which were destroyed once the attendees were hypnotized into Satan's new narrative. Yes, witchcraft. On our now world going forward. So how do you think, going forward on how now we are to think and to follow lockstep orders of the Epic. Epic seed line started with bringing out philosophers that began writing the Satanic Agenda, as in Helen Blavatsky with the Theosophical Society, with Alice Bailey, as well as the so-called poet, evil warlock called Aleister Crowley, his buddy, Jack Parsons. They started to channel and create portals for the little gray aliens, little evil bio robots. They started the abduction human harvesting program. So Satan can build his hybrid armies of people with no soul who look human. They were just clones. Superpowered clones. So what's next in this lockstep agenda? Of course, now comes the Federal Reserve. It was created to further enslave us through debt and start making fiat currencies. The CIA was formed. I call that confused, ignorant American. That was formed, and their only job was to bring us all of our programming and to give Hollywood their scripts. That starts their satanic and porn-addicted indoctrination, all of which takes you so far away from your spirit and into addiction of all kinds, living in a total apostate state of being versus love, just distraction. Feed me more lies, entertain me, please. Isaiah 30:10. Religions everywhere is the biggest business moneymaker on planet Earth. Satan's angels, again, are more organized than any man's army could ever assemble. And they have only one agenda, which is to falsify the word of God, as in the second coming of Jesus has not already happened. But it did happen. Jesus did come the second time, as he said he would, as his apostles promised he would. It was all done. And it was done and over with by 70 AD, of which shortly thereafter came his millennial kingdom, 1,000 years on earth. That is what they had to redact. And it was the most successful campaign to ever happen on planet Earth to this very day. All religious folks celebrate their success. When I say all religious folks celebrate their success, I'm talking about the success of the dark, fallen, evil angels under Satan's control. That's what you're celebrating. You're performing ritually Every Saturday or Sunday, whatever your religion is, you perform like puppets to the fallen dark angels. They pray out loud like Jesus told them not to. You're seeing my point by now. Unless truth is not your end goal, then you're not seeing it. So now begins to pop up from dark fallen angels who appear to men who want to start their own idolatry churches, as in Joseph Smith. He began his career as a magician. He was a Freemason. He became the founder of what's called Mormonism today. He claimed that an angel called Moroni, which was a fallen angel, that angel, Moroni, came to his house on September 21, 1823. This is when Satan's agenda kicks into high gear. It's also around the same time a 32-degree Mason called, his name was Foster Bailey, that's right, Alice Bailey's husband, founded what today you can easily find online, started the Lucifer Trust. That is at the heart of the New Age movement and started the whole phenomenon of automatic writing. The automatic writing phenomenon started a huge campaign, big money, a lot of making books through automatic writing, which will later foster, I guess I'm going to say, planted the seeds that later helped to get a new campaign underway, as in free love, free sex, hippie movement. So if you look back in history, religion has always been the largest problem before Jesus and after Jesus. Religion is the largest problem we have on earth. We have religion instead of a personal bride-like relationship with Jesus. What's that look like? It's simple. Live in faith, hope, charity, and love. No buildings needed, no candles, no incense, no confessionals, no communion, no crucifixes, no little collars around your neck, no frocks, no gowns, no fish hats, no rosary beads or bells or Hail Marys. That's called idolatry, and it is a slap in the face of Jesus. Just a reminder here, it's impossible to keep the 10 Commandments, because if we break one, we've broken all 10. None of us has never not broken one. We all lie at one time or another. Let's remember James the just, the blood or the brother of Jesus, who was to be the head of the church after Jesus resurrected. Go back and read James 2, 10 to 20. And instead, read that, but instead, let's focus on living what John wrote. I'll read 1 John 3, 23. And this is his commandment, that we should believe on the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and love one another as he gave us commandment. Now, as we take a stroll back and we look back to the start of 1900, we now have securely in place the narrative of Satan is flourishing with the science of man, no God needed, and the seminaries now teaching a dead and a false end times scenario of what is coming. Not our true history. They chose false doctrines of men started by John Darby. And later came the real moneymaker of the Left Behind series of books and movies and the Armageddon apocalypse films of Hollywood. So today, here we are in 2025 under the control of our smartphones and our smart TVs. This is technology that is weaponized for total surveillance, now going into a state of AI transhumanism. Satan's ultimate goal, which is here now, to genetically modify humans with masked vaccines, which will cause mass sterilization. We now have poisoned food, water, and air. That is the reality of our everyday living conditions. We can now have pandemics and fear tactics, and a push now that will include warfare by weather, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes can be manufactured, and fear tactics. The push now that will include not only weather wars, but also fire from the sky, as in directed energy weapons. They will level most of our cities. So we can 3D print smart cities immediately. It will replace what you love and owned. You will be happy and own nothing. Where will you go once your home and land has been destroyed? AI will rewrite the Bible to support Satan's move toward the Gog and Magog final showdown. That is the final move of Satan's agenda. All right, so let's think about what could Gog and Magog look like. What is the last false flag that gets us into this final showdown, as in Revelation 20, verses 7 to 10? My mind goes to the ET card. Always his kids, Satan's kids, his seed line will arise and emerge with an AI Neuralink installed. What I now know might be a prophetic vision that President Reagan had in his famous speech about an alien threat outside of this planet. And that's here now. That is a daily, or at least minimum weekly, talk in Congress about non-human intelligence. The Nazi scientist named Werner von Braun, on his deathbed, said to his assistant Carol, "Remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We are going to build a space-based weapons against aliens, and it's all a lie." So let's go to this. This is why in December 2024, especially in Jersey, it started there, they tested our psyche with all of the drones, the orbs, also known as plasma ships, to see what the collective psyche about this would we feel threatened? Would we fight back? Which they do not want. And we did not fight back. We gave them a green flag to roll it on out. We collectively said they are friendly. They want to meet Space Brother. They want to celebrate joining Space Brother into space. They want open contact. And also, by the way, they worship Space Brother. They worship their tech. They want to be like us, to come back. I know because I hear it on the phone every single day as people call me to talk about this and to sign up for UFO tours. The alarm bell is they no longer call it UFO. Every person under like 40 only know it to be called UAP. So now, and when they redacted our history and changed our narrative in 1800, they learned it took 3 generations for the narrative to stick. What I have learned from the narrative now being UAP instead of UFO, now it only takes a few years for the narrative to stick. Satan doesn't need a generation, 2 or 3. He only needs a couple of years. That's how woke and broke we are. It's another of their psyop to ensure we do not need I guess I would say time. They don't need time. The narrative is so quickly adopted, and it's game on for them. You know, history repeats itself. There's nothing new under the sun. Let's look at where we are today, from where Satan started his agenda, somewhere in the 1700s. After Trump got elected last November, he gave a speech that he wanted to bring back the world fairs, like the ones of New York, 1939, the one in Chicago in 1893, and the one in Nashville in 1897. He spoke that precisely. And that he wants to use the free energy technology and Tesla towers at these fairs. Why? Because it's going to take us into a reset. The narrative, just like the groomed little boy running Canada, Trudeau, said in 2020 about the pandemic, that the pandemic provided us an opportunity to reset. There is now coming a godless utopia of technology, free energy, peace and prosperity, government protection of the people, and a golden age of what will turn out to be AI dominance, no jobs, cyborg, a mixture of human and machine, metaverse, digital reality, to escape reality, a digital slavery like today with our phones, an economic entrapment with the universal basic income. We're going to have designer humans with gene splicing and CRISPR technology and DNA enhancements, surveillance on our health or lack thereof, geoengineering, been going on since the 90s, or really since the Vietnam War, but in our skies in the 90s, synthetic foods that only those can eat that have been enhanced or genetically modified. They will be the only ones that can eat that food or get anything out of that food. You and I, Betsy, real humans, cannot. There's going to be a whole rise of the machine drone overlords. Loss of humanity is the end game. And we collectively will love it. Why? Because we all think Jesus is coming to stop it all. And that is the world's biggest delusion. That even God will sin upon us. Let's read 2 Thessalonians 2, 10 to 11. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause, God shall send them strong delusion, and they will believe a lie. The lie is Jesus already had his coming in his generation as he promised. First century generation of Christians and Jews. We will not be saved from the future that is coming. It's full steam ahead, and it cannot be stopped. It's promised to Satan, and he has his time as promised by God. That is the truth that no one today will or can embrace. But that is how you become a spiritual warrior. Instead of making a prophet on a lie, the church is making you their merchandise. As Peter prophesied and wrote in his letter, 2 Peter 2:3. And through covetousness shall they with feigned words make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time lingereth not, and their damnation slumbereth not. Amen, Potters? Potter out.